Hello, my name's Greg Dumas, and together with my partner Sean Greenwood, for the last several months we've been working on integrating Google Assistant with Pepper Robot, and we'd like to show you in the next few slides what we've done.
Over the course of the project, we went through many development cycles to achieve our goal of extending Pepper with Smart Assistant technology. When deciding the best approach, we had to work around many software issues and incompatibilities. Our final design revolved around Pepper transferring waveform audio files to and from Google Assistant Server, which was implemented using the PyNowQI SDK and some Bash and Python scripting as well. At the end of this presentation, we also have a short video demonstration of a real Pepper robot answering a few questions it normally couldn't answer using the integrated Google Assistant. The question we set out to answer with our project was this: how can we improve Pepper's conversational functionality? Our solution to this problem was to implement third-party smart assistant services, like the ones shown here, into the Pepper robot. Our smart assistant of choice for this project ended up being Google Assistant, due to its ease of implementation and easy access to documentation and related SDKs. Our analysis of the problem was that Pepper cannot answer many simple questions that an end user may want to ask it, like asking for a weather forecast or when football season starts this year. This is where our Smart Assistant implementation was meant to take over. However, the implementation was easier said than done. The retirement of the Aldebaran community support site, which was like Stack Overflow for SoftBank's robots, has been shut down, which severely limited our access to help resources. Additionally, the QI SDK for Android Studio, the SDK that SoftBank provides for creating apps for Pepper, has not been updated to be compatible with the current version of Android Studio. Even if the app was updated, though, we still would not be able to upload apps to our robot anyways. As it turns out, enabling developer mode on the robot's tablet is required to upload an Android app to it, and this is made impossible on some older robots since the setting is inaccessible on the version of Android they were shipped with.
The project's design would be dictated by a three-step process. First, the user speaks to the Pepper robot. The conversation would then be conveyed to Google Assistant for processing and response. Finally, the Google Assistant's response would be played back to the user over the Pepper robot speakers. Two software development kits, or SDKs, were crucial to this implementation. The SoftBank PyNowQI SDK provided a means of accessing key features of the Pepper robot, while the Google Assistant SDK in turn allowed us to make requests and receive responses from the Google API. Ubuntu 16.04 long-term support LTS and Python 2.7.12 were chosen for the project development environment in the interest of compatibility with the SoftBank Robotics SDK. We note that both OS and programming language versions used have reached end-of-life status and are no longer supported, which was suboptimal. As previously mentioned, PyNowQI SDK provided access to various key functions of Pepper. For the purposes of integrating Google Assistant, we were mainly concerned with modules that interfaced with Pepper's ability to record and play audio, including AL Audio Device, AL Audio Recorder, and AL Audio Player. Installation and setup involved downloading a tarball from SoftBank to the Ubuntu workstation, extracting the archived contents, and adding the SDK to Python's path in a virtual environment. The Google Assistant SDK would also be installed on the workstation, and additionally required the setup of a Google Actions console project to manage the API credentials, device registrations, and user authorization. The code snippet below from the Google developers documentation demonstrates how to set up a virtual environment using Python 2.7. The virtual environment provided an isolated space to install the SDKs and their dependencies without potentially conflicting with other Python installations on the system. The following snippet, again from the Google developers documentation, shows how to install the Google Assistant SDK and its dependencies. Once installation is complete, the Google Assistant functionality can be invoked by running the following sample command in terminal on the workstation, where the arguments myDevProject and myModel are replaced by information from the Google Actions console project. Both SDKs would be incorporated into the following two scripts, which we use to implement Google Assistant functionality on the Pepper robot. The program begins in the bash script on the left. First, an SSH connection is established between the workstation and the Pepper robot. Pepper then begins recording with its microphones using the aRecord utility, which captures the user's query. Once recording has finished, the audio file is transferred back to the workstation via the Secure Copy or SCP utility. The audio file is then used as an input to the Google Assistant SDK, which returns the Assistant response as a WAV file. SCP is again used, this time copying the recording of the Google Assistant back to Pepper. Finally, the Python script, visible on the right, is called, which establishes a connection to Pepper and directs the robot to play the Google Assistant response over its speakers, using functionality from the PyNowKey SDK. The implementation just shown was not our initial plan. Indeed, several designs were explored and tested in the course of this project's software development lifecycle. The first approach called for an app to be developed using Android Studio and SoftBank's QI SDK, but this plan hit a roadblock when we discovered that we could not enable developer mode on our Pepper robot, which was required for app deployment. The SoftBank Robotics Command Center platform was identified as an alternative means of deploying an application, but SoftBank support was not able to offer access to this tool. These issues led to a major redesign of the project implementation. Instead of deploying a program directly on the robot, a host machine on the same network would be used to interface between the Google Assistant services and Pepper. A Flask server was set up to stream audio to and from the Pepper, but in testing, the robot was unable to play audio streams via the relevant PyNowKey module, AL Audio Player Proxy Play Web Stream. While troubleshooting this issue, an audio file was transferred to Pepper using the Secure Copy utility to verify that the robot could play a local audio file using AL Audio Player. The test succeeded, and a realization occurred. SCP could be used in place of the Flask server to send and receive audio from Pepper. This idea led to the final successful implementation. We'll now take a brief moment to show a demonstration of Google Assistant running on Pepper Robot. Say a tongue twister.
She sells seashells by the seashore. The shells she sells are surely seashells, so if she sells shells on the seashore, I'm sure she sells seashore shells.
What's the weather today?
Today in Worcester, it will be partly cloudy, with a forecasted high of 58 and a low of 41. Right now it's 57 degrees and mostly cloudy.
Tell me a joke.
How do trees access the internet? They log in.
What time is it?
It's 3:13 p.m.
Thank you. We'd now like to open the floor to any questions you may have.